So what are we to do?
We need to destroy it, then the plague will stop, and Uther may see sense.
And that's why you need Arthur.
It was so funny, because when I heard that they were doing it, I sort of went in and looked it all up, and I sort of went to my mother and I said, you know, I don't want to play Guinevere. You know, if I was going to read for this, the person I'd want to read for is Morgan Le Fay, because she's the interesting one, and it's always fun to play the bad girl, and it's always fun sort of to play somebody who has such a character arc. So when my agent called me and was like, you're going to read for this, I was ridiculously excited, I swear. I fell down, to be honest, but, you know, just to play somebody who goes through so much changes and who starts out one way, and because you've got to play them for such a long time, there's so much in it. And the writing is great, and the writing's quite modern, but not modern so that you'd notice it, modern so that you could identify with it, rather than it jumping off the page as, oh, well, that doesn't quite fit with the period costumes and the hair and the makeup. It's got allusions towards modernity rather than being stuck entirely in the past, which makes her great fun to play and makes her easier to identify with, I think.
You all right? Sorry about all this. Merlin's not been in today.
Poor Merlin.
Yeah.
To offer to give up his life to save Gwen's. I certainly can't imagine any man loving me so much.
No, I certainly can't imagine that either.
It's because you're not like Merlin. He's a lover.
Yeah, maybe that's because I haven't found the right person to love.
Sadly, the age of gallantry seems to be dead. You look around and all you see are small men, not big enough to fill their armor. There's not one of them that's able to stand up for what is right.
What do you want me to do?
The character I play, she doesn't back down. She gets an idea into her head and she runs with it, and she has a huge social conscience. And my relationship with the king, King Uther, is he is my guardian, and I'm one of the few people who's able to stand up to him and tell him exactly what I think, and what I think often is that he is wrong, whereas his relationship with Arthur is much more father-son, whereas Arthur accepts that he will one day be king, and he has to listen to his father, who is king, and take his advice, whereas I don't have that. So I just say exactly what I think to him, and often create tension.
You knew about this, didn't you? Morgana, don't lie to me.
Arthur's old enough to make decisions for himself.
He's just a boy.
Have you seen your son recently?
All the characters change and grow. What you start off with is not what we end up with. And that's the great thing about watching it. This show is about the characters and how they grow and change and how they interact with each other as the show gets on. Because when you start out, Merlin hasn't lived in the city, in the kingdom. He's come to it, so we're all getting to know him as we go on. Whereas I've lived at court and I've lived with Gwen. So as we're getting older and as we're dealing with things, our relationships change and our relationships grow, like anybody. And that's what's great to watch about this, because it's not stagnant, it's constantly changing. And you can see how relationships are growing between everyone, between me and Arthur, between me and Gwen, and between me and Merlin, and especially between me and Uther. There's a huge change in our relationship throughout the first series.
You will lift the curse, sorcerer.
It is not in my power.
You will die.
Killing me will not help you.
Magic is banned in the kingdom, and I am the king's ward. He is my guardian, so I'm very close to him, so any magical powers that I may or may not have to be kept secret.
It's difficult to describe. I had a dream. Nightmare.
You really are very sweet, Morgana.
Why are you laughing?
You! Your feelings, bad dreams. You don't have to make this stuff up. You can tell me the truth. It's obvious you like me.
Less and less by the second.
All right. Whatever you say.
You're intolerable.
I have no idea what's going to come out. I have no idea where they're going to go with my character. So the powers that I have now are a hint of what I'm going to have, which is the really interesting part, you know? And would you like to know what the power is? Go on. I have dreams that tell the future. I have dreams that tell the future which I use in order to save people's lives.
And you say the well is full of it?
I sent men down to the underground reservoir. There's no trace of water to be found.
First the crops and now this.
It's the same throughout the kingdom. There's precious little water anywhere.
Gaius, can you offer any explanation for this?
I cannot think of a scientific explanation. I can only conclude it's the result of sorcery.
I believe you're right. It is the work of magic. The kingdom is under attack.
Well, Luther is your typical warrior king. You know, he rules by force. But that isn't to say that he isn't a gentleman. I think he fears magic, and he rules out of fear. But at the same time, you do see the softer sides of him. He does know right from wrong.
Merlin was meant to inform you that I wouldn't be back till later today.
Have you some kind of mental affliction?
Probably.
I'm looking into it, sire.
Well, I hope for our sake you find a cure. Or we'll find ourselves with a food shortage on our hands.
Food shortage.
He has such a huge fear of the use of magic that that's where his anger and his wish to suppress it comes.